Well, now, how about we've talked about cryptids and paranormal. How about UFOs?
We have through the years had accounts of UFOs. There were a rash of reported UFO sightings here in the 1870s that I had ran across in some of my historical research.
Hmm. So is
1870s?
Correct.
Oh. Did you get a description of what they looked like?
One was the typical flying saucer. One was described as a giant cigar. If I remember right, a metallic giant cigar. The guy was fishing in the Tiffin River, and he, from the description, it sounded like he may have soiled himself running home.
Ew.
Wow.
Wow.
Now we know why people are constantly looking for toilet paper nowadays.
Yeah. Back then he was looking for a corn cob, probably, but
Yeah, back then, yeah, or leaves, dry leaves.
or maybe the Sears Roebuck catalog. I
Yeah.
think they may have had those then.
That's pretty funny, though. So, is it a little hilly country or pretty flat?
No, actually very flat. This was actually the bottom of historic Lake Erie after the glaciers. Our house is actually on a sand ridge that was one of the beaches for one of the incarnations of Lake Erie as the waters receded.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. So, of course,
that means that area around there is probably granite, isn't it?
It's quite a lot of glacial till, probably 100 feet of glacial, rocks and till deposited over top of the bedrock. But we do have granite, but it's quite a ways down.
Okay.
We do have we have vast amounts of underground water, a very incredible aquifer, and that's one of the theories why Bryan seems to have a lot of activity. This house sits on that aquifer, and that is one of the theories that may explain why the house is so active here.
Yeah. Now, do any of the other houses in Bryan have activity as well?
There are quite a number of them. We have a building that is a business, and I've talked to someone who worked there who said they would hear children laughing and playing during the day when they were working, and they would hear somebody, it sounded like they were preparing a meal in the kitchen. And if I'm remembering right, even they've smelled food cooking.
Wow.
There's a restaurant in town. The above is pretty well still a vacant carriage factory, but a gentleman who ran the restaurant actually committed suicide a number of years ago. He was suffering from cancer and took his own life, and I actually heard him come through an EVP in the area where his former office was.
Wow. So those are pretty interesting things when you can get evidence like that. So, where, other than Gettysburg, would you actually like to go to investigate?
Pennhurst looks like it would be fascinating. And I'm kind of disappointed because the group from Bryan that I've done some investigating with had a trip planned. I initially was planning to go. It looked like I was going to have a conflict. Now with the coronavirus, it was going to be in April, so that's probably off.
Right.
But I've talked to people who have investigated there, and it just sounds like a very fascinating place.
You need to talk to Kat Cloco. She actually got to go do an investigation there.
Ah, yes, I would love to hear what she ran across there.
Yeah, they had some interesting things. I was over there. We were I was supposed to go with them, only they messed up, and I didn't get to go with the group over to Penhurst. It's run down pretty good, so you have to be careful in there. But yeah, it was pretty active. And Trans-Allegheny, that's supposed to be a pretty active place.
Yes, that's another place this group I think was looking to possibly do at some point too. So hopefully I'll get a chance to do one of those buildings.
The only thing that I have about trying to do those big buildings is if you go there, they usually have large groups of people, and to me that detracts a lot of if you're actually trying to get some evidence, EVPs, etc.
Yeah, I don't personally tend to get a lot when I'm with a large group. I've helped out with some public investigations, and I think they have very good value in introducing the public to the paranormal.
Oh, yes.
But like you said, you can't really get good evidence
Right.
during those.
Yeah. If you can, if you got enough with just a small amount of people that you can rent the place for a night, or just a handful of people, you would tend to do a lot better. I know when we did the what was it, the bar there in Gettysburg.
Oh, the brewery there?
Yeah, the brewery. We had a lot of people there in that place, and there's a lot of people on the outside, but when most people was outside, if you was on the inside, you tended to have a little bit better chance of getting something.
Yeah, actually, Diane, my wife, was with me on that trip, and
Yes.
one EVP that was captured outside there, we were there, and of course, I didn't know that they'd caught the EVP until later. I think it was something, "Is anyone with us?" And we got an "I'm here" came through, which that was interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. You had a lot of traffic, though, so you picked up all the traffic noises. Did you go out to where the, I guess it was the old well?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was, and Diane's here with me, and she said, actually, I think we got the EVP across the road down toward the well, is where that was recorded.
How does she like going on the investigations with the group?
I think she enjoys them, depending on how large the group is and so forth. Sometimes we do find the large groups a little bit annoying, and we've helped kind of guide groups through on some, and some of the people were rather rude and uncooperative.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the biggest group we had was out at that one farmhouse and over at the hotel, the Fairfield Inn.
Oh, yeah. That was an interesting investigation.
Now, you got to go down into the basement?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my first experience with dowsing rods. I had always not really thought much of them, but I was given a pair to use, and I was very impressed with the results.
Yeah,
It's interesting when you get that feeling like a current through them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm very careful, using, of course, the ones with the beads, so that, it makes it much more difficult to to manipulate, and I try to be as scientific with them as we can, and I've had good instruction in that regard too, which has been helpful.
But you still feel that kind of a buzz.
And actually, I've especially because of the house, like I mentioned earlier, I've really become very sensitive to the energies, and I'll actually feel the hair stand up on my neck, and I'll feel, like almost an energy going up my back when I'm using those.
That's good. Yeah, it's fascinating how they're more of a conduit than anything else, I find.
And my take is that actually your body is the antenna that's gathering the energy. The rods are just, I guess, the indicator. But my wife was reminding me, before I was really very accepting of the paranormal, I had the chance to be part of an event at Andersonville, the Civil War prison.
Oh, really?
That is reportedly quite haunted. Now, I was there. I gave a talk on one of my books, Hell on Belle Isle, at the National POW Museum, but they were allowing a group of reenactors to actually camp on the site. Now, again, this is before my paranormal involvement. Heavy thunderstorms rolled through. They ended up sticking us in a maintenance building, and I thought, I'm not about to sleep on a cement floor. So I went and got in my car. Well, the storms ended, and there was a gap, and I thought I was really disappointed that I didn't get to be out on the field at night. So I thought, they're not going to mind if I walk out there. And I did, and I actually went to Providence Spring and sat down, and I had this incredibly peaceful feeling like I was really supposed to be there, and I was dressed in a tattered Union uniform, which I see now is probably a trigger object, and just feeling so peaceful. And all of a sudden, I just felt a foreboding, like, you should leave now. So I did, and there was lightning in the distance. I walked back, and just as I grabbed the handle of my car, a horrible storm broke. I mean, one that had large hail. It took down limbs, and I was safely in my car when that hit. And that has remained with me. Now I understand it much better. At the time, it just was very perplexing to me.
So does your wife like to go with you on these excursions, you might say?
Sometimes I think she gets bored with Gettysburg because I usually have book signings and talks, and she hears me talk all the time. So. But she loves the exploration, and she's very open to the investigation. She's the one that encouraged me today to take the ghost detector. When our bird was so attentive to the dining room. So yeah, she's very open to it.
Well, that's good. Usually, when we go to Gettysburg as a group, we have a good time. We don't always out on the battlefield or a particular building that we're investigating, but usually after that is when we actually get together and just sit around and talk.
Yeah, and I really enjoy those get-togethers because for the most part, you guys are more experienced than I am. I came to this fairly recently and late in life, and I've learned a lot and very much enjoyed those chats. Like you say, just sitting around maybe having a beer after we've investigated.
Yeah, and to me, that's some of the best times as a group, because everybody's got different stories or different theories, and we're just sitting around talking and having a good time.